Hi everyone, I'm going to help in this video with making objects that are clickable and draggable. This doesn't involve anything that you haven't already done, it's just a different way of organizing maybe the things that you've thought about before. So let me remind you all the things that you already know. So if you look at my program here, you see I've got mouse x, mouse y, and those are being added together in a string that's then getting displayed. So that's where this text is coming from. And that's just to remind you, you always know the coordinates of your mouse. We've also done work where you can test the coordinate, you can test xy coordinates to see, for example, like if a particular point is inside a rectangular region. So that would be easy enough to do also. Here I've got an object called clickable thing. And the object has an upper left-hand corner of 30-30 and a width and height of 80-80. So if I wanted to just do a straight if statement, I could do something like this. So here I'm testing if the mouse coordinate is larger than, if the x coordinate is larger than 30 and less than 30 plus 80, because 80 is the width. Same thing for the y. So in other words, I'm testing is the mouse horizontally between the left and right walls, and is it vertically between the top and bottom walls. And as you can see, when I go inside the box, it will display mouse inside when I'm in the box. Cool. But that's not exactly what we want to do. So what if we only wanted this to happen when the mouse was being clicked? Well, that's a piece you already know also from the previous games. So a lot of this is putting together the pieces in the right order. So you might remember from previous projects that you have this method called mouse released, which is run if your mouse is being pressed and then you let it go. So if I put that same detection code inside mouse released, now it's not asking this question all the time. Now it's only asking the question in the moment that I release the mouse. So here, let's rerun the program and see what that looks like. So here, I mouse over it, nothing happens. If I click out here, nothing happens. But if I click inside, you see it says mouse inside very, very briefly. And the reason why very briefly is because, like I said, this runs just in the split moment that I let go of a mouse that had been held. Well, all right, so what if you want to do, what if you wanted to display for a longer amount of time? Well, instead of having the command that does the displaying right here, we could have like a mouse clicked variable or something. So let's add to a mouse clicked variable. It's not built in yet, saying it doesn't know what it is, but up here I could make an int called mouse clicked equals 0. And then inside here, this is where I could put my display. And instead of saying mouse inside, I'd say mouse clicked, and then however many times it had been clicked. So now when I run it, it says mouse clicked 0. I'm clicking out here, but then if I'm over it and I click it, it's updating. Because this code only runs in the moment that I click, I add one to this variable, but the variable is being displayed all of the time because draw is running in this loop that's running all the time. Okay, well, we're not thinking about moving or dragging things yet, so let's start thinking about that. So the first step in doing that is, let's try and move the code that detects if the mouse is inside the object, actually inside the object itself. So I've got this class called clickable thing. I have a constructor. These two numbers are the upper left-hand corner, the x and y. This is the width and the height. This is the color that it displays in, and you notice the color is actually an integer. I just generated it here on the line before. And this is a unique ID, just because if I have a lot of these objects, I want a number that says like this is object 0, this is object 1, or whatever. So this is sort of like the name of the object. Okay, what I just did a second ago was I moved all of those if statements inside a method called contains. And the way that I read this is it's like when I click the mouse, I want to ask my object, hey object, do you contain this point where the mouse is right now? So that's just a different way of asking, is the mouse inside your object boundaries? And it's the same if statements, it's just that now the if statements are running from inside the object itself, so that makes it look kind of cleaner from out here. Let's just verify that this still works. So here I am, clicking out here, nothing, clicking in here. Okay, so it still works. So let's think out just in pseudocode, how could I make a program where I click on the box, and then if I click somewhere else, the box will move to the new location? All right, so I already have code that detects if I've clicked on the box. So if I've clicked on the box, what I want to do is I want to remember that I've clicked on the box. The reason I need to remember that I've clicked on the box is the second time I click, if I haven't clicked on a box yet, it shouldn't do anything. But if I've already clicked on a box, then it needs to actually move the box to the new location. So what that means is that if I've clicked on the box, I need to remember that I've clicked on the box, so that way the second time I click, I can do the right thing. All right, so how am I going to remember if I've clicked on the box? Well, that's feeling like a kind of a Boolean thing. Have clicked on box. So it starts out as false, and if I've clicked the box, that could be true. A different thing you could do is let's make a clickable thing variable called currently selected. And currently selected can start as null, which means that this variable could be holding a box, but right now it's holding nothing. Okay, so what I can do down here is when I actually click on a box, I want some way of saying that's the one I've currently selected. So let's put it inside the currently selected variable. So now I'm saying the object that I just clicked on is my currently selected one. All right, let's do a different if statement. Or let's do a different if statement. So I want to say something like, if I've already clicked a box, then I want to move the box location to current mouse location. And then I also want to unselect the box. So I want to say I'm back to my original state. I haven't sort of initially clicked on anything yet. Okay, so how am I going to do that? If I've already clicked the box, well, the nice part is now we have a variable that tells us how to do that. So if I use the Boolean variable, I could say have clicked on box equals true if I wanted to test. But the way that we've done it is we have this currently selected. So if I hadn't clicked on anything, currently selected would be null, right? Because it starts out as null. As soon as I click on something, I assign that object to this variable. So what that means is that if I've clicked on something, then what I know is that this variable is not empty, that this variable is not null. So I can do it this way. So this is just a fancy way of saying, is the currently selected variable containing a box that I've already clicked on? So if it's not empty, then I know I must have clicked. All right, so what do we want to do next? We want to move the box to its current location. So that's what getter and setter methods are for. So I've already got a set x and a set y. So let's just set its x coordinate to be the current mouse x. And let's set its y coordinate to be the current mouse y. And then I want to tell the program that currently selected is going back to being empty again. So let's actually put null inside there as a way of saying, okay, now you're empty again. The code as I've written it right now has a little bug. If I were to release the mouse, if I were clicking on a box, it would run this code, which says, okay, my currently selected object is now that box. But then it keeps on running, and here this if statement is going to suddenly be true because I already have an object inside my currently selected variable. And so the program is going to think, oh, he's clicking for the second time, so I'd better move the box. But really, I've only clicked once so far, so I don't want to both pick up and then put down the box with a single mouse click. So in other words, if the first if statement ran, I don't want to run the second if statement. So an easy way to do this is to make it an else if, because we know that else doesn't run unless the first if statement was false. So here it's if I'm clicking the box for the first time, then we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll do this. So let's run it and see how it works. So here I can click out here as much as I want, nothing's happening. If I click here and then there, great, well now I've moved the box. So something interesting that you're noticing is I could click down here, but then wherever I click, that's where the upper left-hand corner of the box goes. That's a problem I could let you fix. But one of the things you might want to do is you might want to remember how far from, or like remember the difference in x between the mouse x and left side of the box. So in other words, like remember how far away are we from the corner? And if you store that into a variable, then you can reuse that down here where you're setting the box's corner, because you can have it sort of add or subtract or whatever you'd need to do by the right amount so that it ends up in the right spot. But maybe there's an even better way to do this. Wouldn't it be nice if after we clicked it, it's like it's sort of following our mouse so that we could actually see where we were putting it down? In that case, what we want to be doing is we want to be moving the box all the time until the second click. So if you want to be doing something all the time, you should put it in draw. So what I'm thinking is, let's do this. Down here inside draw, let's tell the object that we're going to set its XY position. So this isn't good yet, because now the object's just always moving around with my mouse. It's like I only want to do this if I'd already clicked it once. So think, what was your way of telling whether or not you clicked an object once? It's if the currently selected isn't equal to null. So if currently selected doesn't equal null, then let's take that currently selected thing and set its x and y coordinates to the mouse. So let's look at it so far. So here I am, I'm clicking, nothing's happening. I click there, and now it's moving around, and I click a second time, and I've placed it. And the reason I've placed it is because the next time I click, I set currently selected back to null, and what that means is once we're back up here in draw and it's running continuously, this isn't true anymore, so we're not moving anything. Okay, what happens if there's a couple of different boxes? Let's think that scenario out. Okay, so as you can see, I've got 3 boxes now, red, green, and blue. And here, let's close this. And here in my code, you can see those boxes are called obj1, obj2, and obj3. They're all clickable thing objects. Here's where I've constructed them, and you see the parameters are all the same. This was the ID, so they all have different ID numbers. This is the x coordinate, so that's why they're spaced out horizontally, because one is at 30, and then 130, and then 230. They're all the same size, 80 by 80, and they all have different colors, and I generate the colors right here. Okay, and so then here in draw, I'm just telling all 3 to draw themselves. I haven't changed anything inside mouse released yet, so think for a second about what would these if statements need to look like in order to be able to select all 3 of the boxes, or any of the 3 boxes, I should say. So think about that for a second. I'm going to show you my solution in just a minute. Okay, fair warning, here we go. So right now I'm asking if object 1 contains the mouse, and if it is, then we'll set the currently selected object to object 1. So let's just do that kind of all over again. So here I've got, if object 2 is the one that contains the mouse, then let's set the currently selected to be object 2. And that's what's nice about having this contains method. I didn't have to have all of those if statements all over again, because those if statements are here inside the method, so I could just run it another time. And then same thing for object 3. And then let's have the last thing here. Although now that I'm looking at this, maybe what I really want to do is move this up to the front. So maybe what I really want to do is say something like, if I'm already dragging around a box, then let's place it, or let's stop dragging it around. And then I'll just return immediately. Return even from a void method is okay as long as I don't have a value. So here I'm saying, like, if I've already clicked once, then let's just unset the box that I've been dragging around and then exit immediately. Otherwise, if I haven't been dragging around an object, then let's check which of the 3 objects might I be contained within and then set the appropriate thing. So now when I run it, cool, so I can set red, green, and blue pretty easily. And we've still got this kind of irritating thing where no matter where I click, it will immediately snap to the upper left-hand corner, and I'll let you think about that problem. The last thing that I want to say is, whenever you find yourself doing like if-else chains like this, where the code is the same for every single item, this is a sign that you should probably be using a list, like an array or an array list. Because really what we want to be doing is we want to be looping over all of our objects, and for every object we want to ask the question, do you contain the mouse? And then if the answer is yes, we want to take the object that we're looping over and assign it to a variable. So if you want to rewrite this using an array list of clickable things, that's going to condense all of this code and make everything kind of much cleaner and nicer. As a last note, you can also tell your object that it has been clicked and have it do something. So here, where I'm just about to say that I've selected object 1, what if we could say object 1 dot like set clicked? So this is a way of telling the object that it has been clicked, and it can decide if it wants to do something as a result of that. So like one thing it might want to do, So one thing it might want to do is like change its color to some like default yellow color. So, or let's not change the color. Let's do this. Let's set a Boolean has clicked to be true here. And so I'll have to create this up at the top. Private Boolean has clicked starts out false. So down here in setClick, I'll just set it to be true. And then inside draw, I can say this. I can say if has clicked is true, then let's say window.fill with, let's make a new color. So window.color. So let's make like a lot of red and a lot of green and no blue. Otherwise, we'll fill it with its normal color. Something like this. So now draw is always checking to see if the particular object has been clicked, and depending on whether the answer is yes or no, it's going to do a different thing for how it draws. I need a way of telling it that it's been unclicked though, so let's add that as well. So I would want to set it to be unclicked the moment it gets released. So before I set currently selected to null, I'll tell the currently selected object, I'll say set unclicked. And so now I can create that method over here. Set unclicked, where we'll set has clicked to be false. So again, we're thinking in this way where we're giving our object different commands that a different class can run. So in the moment that we click it, we can tell the object it's clicked. In the moment before we release it, we can tell it that it's unclicked. And now if we run the code, I click it, and it does apparently nothing. It only worked for red. Oh, it only worked for red because that's the only place where I actually put the set clicked. Let's try this again. So 2. And again, the code I'm writing can definitely be like cleaned up. There's a lot of kind of redundant stuff in here, but I'm trying to show you at a basic level how it would work. So now whatever I clicked is yellow while it's being clicked. And be thinking very flexibly here. You don't have to color it yellow. You could actually change the image that's being displayed for that object. You could change its size. If you click on it, you could have it create like another object and place it on into the world somehow. So there's a lot of different things you can do once you have a method that runs. You could have whatever code you want in here. Okay, cool. I hope that was helpful.